Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Today I want to talk about software engineering internships and how much you can expect to make interning at the top technology companies in California. I'll also be going over some of the smaller companies I interned at before I was able to land a job in these Californian companies. I earn a lot less. So I'll give you a preview of beginning to end of my progression through college and how my internship salaries have risen over time. Although this video is targeted towards a younger audience, perhaps people in college wanting to transfer into the technology field, but it can also be very useful for someone past college who also wants a career change. Maybe you're planning to switch careers into software engineering and you're thinking about doing a 4-year bachelor's degree. How much can you actually earn while studying, which is really important because tuition is gonna be really high. So internships are a great way to pay your tuition while you're studying. Before we get started, make sure to smash that like button for the YouTube algo. It's gonna help me out with growing this channel and I would greatly appreciate it. In total, I've done 5 internships throughout my college career, and there's some context I have to give before this to understand why I have so many internships. I went to the University of Waterloo. This is a top college in Canada. We call it the Harvard of the North, so to speak. It's probably the best school for computer science in Canada. And the unique thing about it is we have a co-op program. What that means is while you're studying, you're also doing these internships from time to time. Throughout your college experience, you're gonna be doing 5 to 6 internships. In our degree, it says you must complete these internships, find at least 5 of these to be able to graduate. Now, this does push back the time frame of getting your degree. It took me 5 years to get my computer science degree, but I think it was well worth it having 5 internships on my resume, so it was really easy to find a full-time job. After studying for 8 months in college, I was required to find my very first internship. Now, I think the very first internship that you try to find is definitely the hardest one because you have no prior work experience. So for this one, it was pretty damn difficult to get, honestly. I remember applying for 50 different positions with this crappy resume I had. I had no prior job experience. I just put my projects on there. And I only got interviews for 2 of them, and they didn't go too well. I didn't end up getting the job for either of those positions. After that, I started applying for QA positions, which stands for quality assurance. These were less desirable than the programming jobs because it involves writing test cases, just manually testing out what the programmers have wrote. For me, finding a job was the most important part. I think the very first job, it can be basically anything. It's just to get your foot in the door. It doesn't need to be like a really good position. So I was perfectly fine doing quality assurance. I ended up getting an offer from Kobo Inc. as a quality assurance analyst. This job was in Toronto, Canada, so I was getting paid in Canadian dollars. They paid me $18 an hour, which is actually really good for someone at their first job. Like, I had no prior experience, so I was very happy with that salary. And it was a pretty easy job as well. Kobo made e-reader products similar to the Amazon Kindle, and all I had to do was to tap on the buttons on that e-reader every day to make sure the programmers didn't mess anything up. After having some internship experience on my resume, it was really easy to get other interviews for my next internship. This time when I applied to 50 different programming positions, I got interviewed for 8 of them. And from those 8 interviews, I eventually ended up with an offer as a web developer at Genesis Labs. Genesis is a enterprise product, so you probably haven't heard of it. In this position, I mainly worked with HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, and I made a salary of $21 an hour. Now that's a $3 per hour improvement over my previous position as a QA. So I was pretty happy with that salary progression, but it was also at this time that I found out US positions paid a lot more than Canada. So while I was in Canada making $21 an hour, I heard there were some interns going to the US making $40 an hour, $50 an hour, and that was in US dollars. So it was like a 1.3 conversion rate from USD to Canadian at the time, which would have been around $60 an hour in terms of Canadian salary. So that was like huge for me. I was like, wow, if I could get a internship in the US, I could basically pay off my entire tuition and I wouldn't have any debt when graduating. So I made that my goal. The interview process for these US-based companies is nothing like the ones in Toronto. They're really hard. There are usually several rounds of interviews. It's not just like one interview and you get the job. There's 2 to 3 rounds of interviews, and each of them around 45 minutes each, and they'll ask you a very technical coding question where you'll have to code it on the spot. which is very different from my previous interviews where they just asked me behavioral questions and you could really BS a lot of those answers, like you can just make things up. But for these technical questions where you actually have to code things up on the spot, there's really no way you can fake your way into that job. You really have to know your stuff. In the end, I only got one offer from a Californian company and it was at Amazon. So I was like very, very lucky. It was a subsidiary called A9.com, part of Amazon, which worked on their search product. I was so happy to get this job. Like when the recruiter messaged me about how much I'll be making at this position, I was like mind blown. Well, not mind blown because I already knew like what California internships pay, but just to see that in writing, hey, you're gonna be making this much, was pretty crazy. Let me actually try to find the email so I can show you guys like exactly what the recruiter wrote to me. Here it is, I found the email. $6,300 per month and $1,750 housing stipend per month as well. So in total, that's a little bit over $8,000 per month. And I was making this at 20 years old, still in college, and that's a crazy amount. This is in USD as well. Imagine going from $21 per hour Canadian to $8,000 per month USD. I think that's around $50 an hour in USD. So it's a lot more money. If you convert it to Canadian, it's around 3 times the salary I made in my previous internship. There was also a crazy thing that happened during my internship that made me earn even more, and it was just based out of pure luck. So after 3 months of working at A9, getting paid $8,000 per month, the recruiter actually emailed me and said, we've actually increased our intern pay by $1,000 per month. And they actually decided to backfill us for that salary. So that was so insane to me. And this is just pure luck, by the way, that, you know, they happened to increase the salary and they didn't really have to do it. So props to that recruiter. Emily, if you're watching this, thank you for increasing my salary, even though you didn't have to. After completing my 3rd internship at A9, getting interviews from Californian companies became much easier. I actually got quite a few the next time I applied for my 4th internship. And this time I decided to work at Yelp.com in San Francisco. Now the salary at Yelp.com wasn't too high. They initially offered me $38 an hour USD plus $1,000 per month of relocation expenses. I mean, that's still a lot, but compared to what I was making at A9, that was still a lot lower. So I actually negotiated my offer here, and it's kind of strange to be negotiating your intern offer, but this shows you can actually do it. I told Yelp that, hey, A9 was gonna pay me this much, $9,000 per month for coming back as an intern, so you guys better pay me more, upgrade your offer. They weren't able to go up too much higher. I got it raised from $38 an hour to $40 an hour, which is only $2 per hour difference. That's not a lot, but I was still happy that I negotiated and ended up getting a higher salary. In the end, Yelp did pay less than A9, even with the salary raise. But for me, salary wasn't the most important thing. It was more about the change of pace and change of experience. If I went back to A9, I'll be doing the same thing as I did before, meeting the same type of people, but I felt like doing internships, you should switch companies every single time so you're able to get a broad variety of experiences at these different companies. You could say I want to try all these different flavors of companies so then I could decide what I truly like. This brings us to the 5th and final internship that I did while still being in college, and this was at Snapchat in Los Angeles, California. I decided I want a different change of pace from working in the San Francisco Bay Area. In San Francisco, all you meet is tech people. I kind of wanted to meet a variety of people, and LA felt like a better place to live long term. And at this position at Snapchat, I made $9,000 per month, so it was on par with what I made at A9. From that perspective, I was very happy with this salary. All in all, if you're studying computer science right now, or you're looking into getting into the technology field and being a software engineer, it's a great time because there's all these opportunities out there. Companies are paying high salaries, even for interns. Full-time gets paid even more. So you don't have to worry about college tuition per se, because you could potentially make it back by doing all these internships. I hope you guys found that informative and gives you a glimpse of what it's like to be an intern at these top paying companies and how much you can potentially make from them. Make sure to like and subscribe if you've enjoyed the video. If you have any other questions about my internship experience or even full-time, make sure to leave those in the comments down below. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.